Hello and welcome to Total Reviews, the web show where we take a look at games of interest and see if they really are worth a purchase in partnership with Gamesplanet, where you can purchase games like this title from an officially licensed game seller. Today, I take a look at the latest offering from Codemasters, hot off the back of the successful DiRT Rally. This is DiRT 4. Now, when I first played the DiRT games on PlayStation, I was disappointed with how far removed they were from the legendary Colin McRae franchise and how arcadey they felt. However, if you watched any of my videos of DiRT Rally, you know that I called that particular title the spiritual successor to the Colin McRae Rally titles, and I had even said it needed to be rebranded as Colin McRae DiRT Rally. So, when DiRT 4 was announced, I wanted to see whether they would build upon DiRT 3 or DiRT Rally. What I got was information that it was going to be built upon both, and it was going to be able to cater for both simulation and arcade. So, the primary focus of this review is going to be looking at whether or not it does cater for both that simulation and arcade market, and how well it does so. But first, of course, it's time for the specs. Available on PC, Xbox and PlayStation. I will be covering the PC version as usual, so please bear with me for about 30 seconds as I rattle off the specs if you're interested in the console versions. Requiring a minimum spec of an Intel i3 or AMD FX series processor, 4GB of RAM and any low spec dedicated graphics card like a Nvidia GTX 440, as long as it is 1GB, the base to run this title is really low, but I highly recommend higher specs to really enjoy this, particularly on the graphics card. Nvidia 780, that would be really quite helpful. The 1060s, if you can get a hold of them, or the new AMD FX, is it 770 series or something? Something like that. That would be a lot better than this. And of course you also want to bump up your processor. I think an Intel i5 processor is what they recommend, probably looking at about maybe 3 GHz Intel i5 processor with a GTX 770. That would probably give you things that mostly, I'd say, high and some possibly ultra settings, so that's not too bad. Last but not least, DiRT 4 does also require 50GB of hard drive space. Right, that's out the way. Getting into the game, I was immediately asked for which style of gameplay I wanted, arcade or simulation. Now this was actually quite important for me because it was the first time that there was a real consideration being taken into who was playing the game, and it did not seem like a one-size-fits-all approach. And by the way, rarely does a one-size-fits-all ever fit all. Seriously, just avoid those while shopping. I was thrown straight into some tutorial for me to get to grips with driving, and to be honest, I could have done without that. I've been playing rally titles from before the PlayStation era, and as such, I really did not need to know what the 6-to-1 system was or what other pace notes meant. It would have been really nice if we could just skip that before getting into it. That being said, it did allow me to get to grips with the physics model of DiRT 4, which I'll get into a little later. I really love the idea of having a team of your own, and I was really happy that we had to purchase cars, gain licenses and upgrade both cars and the team facilities to enhance the team reputation and how well the team could perform. It gave it more of an immersion factor, particularly over DiRT Rally, which just seemed to be a time trial sort of simulator. This was a definite boost up, and because they didn't put too much into it, it was not too overwhelming. It was just sort of there. You just had to do the upgrades, keep on top of them, and you know, that was it. That really was it. With it though, was my first gripe about the cars, or specifically the car liveries. Now, as all race fans know, or at least most race fans know, a livery may look good on one car, but it will not look good on another car at all most of the time. So when you set up a car livery, it seems that it applies it to all cars you own, which is a little annoying. I started out with a little Ford Fiesta, and I had a decent livery on it. But when I purchased the Subaru Impreza in 1995, because, you know, Colin McRae, the livery looked absolutely horrible. In addition to this, I wish there were more patterns available, because there really isn't enough, or in fact, better still, a make-your-own livery. Similar to what you get in Need for Speed, if anyone's ever played, you know, the old Need for Speed titles. I'm not sure if the new ones have them, but Underground certainly, I think, brought that to life, Need for Speed Underground. That sort of livery creation system, or even Forza. Forza has a really nice livery creation system. That would be absolutely fantastic for DiRT, because, you know, cars, rally cars, one of the big things about rally cars is how the car looks in terms of colours. It's an important thing. You've got those Subaru colours, that WR Blue Mica color. You've got the reds and the whites of the older Mitsubishi Lancers. You've got the Castrol green on the Celica, you know, with the red, white and green. All these things, they're really, really important colors. The Audi Sport colors, the yellow and the white on the Audi Quattro, the Ford Fiesta, the Ford Focus colors, and the Sierra colors and the Escort colors. These are all really, really important. It makes it stand out. So to be able to have something that you could do that with your car, it would be really, really a lot better than what they already have. Anyway, that's that part done. Dirt 4, of course, has rallying, and with it there is the return of Rallycross from Dirt Rally, still being the officially licensed title from the FIA, but the Pikes Peak challenges seem to be missing. In addition to that, there is an introduction to a new mode, Land Rush. This is basically buggy racing around undulating tracks. Now I'll quickly cover both Rallycross and Land Rush before getting a little more into the actual rallying. All of these though result in over 50 vehicles to choose from various classes, ranging from a 1960s Mini to a current day Ford Fiesta RX. And what I really like about it is when you go to purchase these cars, the older cars you can't get in a new car showroom. You actually have to go to the classifieds. Now that reminds me very, very much of the old Gran Turismo. Well, actually I think all the Gran Turismos have used cars, but particularly this reminded me a lot of the Gran Turismo 2 used car lot. And that was actually quite impressive. I was quite happy about that. There is something to be said about these nostalgia things that they put in. This is a little bit nostalgic. But anyway, Land Rush to me was a bit of a mess. The cars felt really great, and it's definitely a whole new way to drive cars. Sliding is seemingly the fastest way around the tracks, tighter corners. And when you're practicing or out in front, it's absolutely fine. You've really got to understand that these cars need a lot of throttle to keep the wheels spinning. You don't want to bog down. You really just want to be on the limit of that adhesion, which is actually quite cool. However, when you're in the mix with the AI, things seem to take a turn for the worse. Whilst the driving's fine, they seem to have no spatial awareness at all, and you'll often find them T-boning you as you take a really perfect line into a corner. And on top of that, the spotter is really, really annoying. Often he's telling you to be careful when you have been hit instead of hitting somebody. And instead of telling you that there's a car on your inside and outside, he's too busy telling you something else. So, you know, the spotter's kind of useless. It's really useless. And I didn't like the Land Rush much at all. Like I said, the cars are good to drive, but the actual events, not so much. Not with the AI and the spotter as it is. Rallycross is a definite highlight of Dirt 4. It is almost the same as Dirt Rally. It feels almost the same, except with more in-depth racing, and they've got some better weather effects, which I'll talk about in a little while, which is the same across the board. The man that sounds very much like Richard Hammond is back, with even more information for you, and the AI this time are pretty good at what they do. I still find it far too easy though, even on the hardest of difficulty, but it is very fun to drive in, and the cars are of course designed to be taken sideways at some pretty extreme angles as you try and get that tightest line. So I do like the Rallycross. I think there's essentially no change from Dirt Rally, and in Dirt Rally it was actually pretty good, but they've sort of bulked up the, I suppose, the build up to it. They've sort of bulked up the build-up. There's a few more challenges in there in terms of the length of the races, the way the heats are set up, stuff like that. But apart from that, it is pretty much the same. Now, time to look at the bulk of the title, the out-and-out rallying. Stage-wise, Dirt 4 has a new procedural stage system with some new and returning location. Sweden and Wales remain from Dirt Rally, and happily for me, Greece is off the list. And if you don't know why, have a look at any of my videos of Greece. But sadly, so's Finland and Germany off the list, and also Monte Carlo, which I found to be really odd. Instead, we have Michigan, Spain and Australia taking their places. Now back to that procedural system. This is an attempt to make sure that every stage you play has a high chance of being totally unique, giving you thousands and thousands of possible variations to race on. Now I think the idea is pretty neat, but the execution could be a little bit better. Nevertheless, during my testing I highly enjoyed having to run different stages, and just every time I ran it, it was different over and over and over again, which was actually quite cool. What did get me though was that when a certain part looked a little familiar to another stage, for example around the areas where they had little fords, and I don't mean the Focus and the Fiesta and the Sierra kind, I mean the actual, you know, little dips in the road that are filled with water, those sort of looked identical from location to location. So in Michigan, all of those looked exactly the same. In Spain, all of those looked, well, there wasn't any in Spain. In Wales, all of them looked exactly the same. So on and so forth. So they'd catch you out a little bit, because you're like, oh yeah, there's now a right 4 coming. You get across it and it's an immediate square right, or immediate turn 1 left, or something like that. Or it's just a continuous straight, in which case you've lost a huge amount of time. So you would go to this, you'd anticipate a corner only to be mistaken, and well, then you crashed. Crashes often ensued. And with the crashes, of course, came repairs. Now, I was happy to see that Codemasters had not only taken the system from Dirt Rally, which emulated real life to an extent, but built upon it. I was really happy, and really liked how the information was displayed before and between stages, as well as all those repair options, tuning out the box, and even race information. Plus, you got to clean your car every 2 stages. You know, you actually had that opportunity to clean a car, which was kind of cool. It really did bring that side of things to life. Visually, I found there to be very little difference from Dirt Rally on the colour palette. It was a little bit more saturated, but that's about it. And, you know, the effects were a little bit more polished. You had leaves being kicked up from the ground and stuff like that now. So there was a little bit more polish there. But I think most of it was down to the new weather effects. So you had more unpredictability when driving, and in some cases, for example heavy fog, you'd have to rely on nothing but your co-driver. And thankfully we do have 2 wonderful co-drivers in this title, one of them being the legend that is Nicky Grist, the co-driver of none other than Colin McRae himself. And for some reason, that voice that I had not heard in that fashion for so many years really did fill me with confidence. And of course, with all the assists turned off and everything right up there in simulation mode, this title does require a whole bunch of skills. Well, sounds wise, in that department I already mentioned that I love the sounds of Dirt Rally, and I'm glad to say that there's been an even, I suppose, a slight improvement on those sounds. So making these notes sound even greater than before. The exhaust note is really nice. I loved how they were before, and I love them even more now. They're just very rally style, very loud, very poppy, very, not poppy as in Taylor Swift poppy, poppy as in lots of pops, lots of reverb, lots of explosions inside. You can hear that. It's really quite well done. But lastly come the physics. Now, I'm not sure about this one. I know that Codemasters has updated the physics model since last time, most notably in the aerodynamics, but for me the feel was just really off on some of the cars. Dirt felt like it was too grippy at times, whilst the point of slip felt a little too arcade-like. On the other hand, I had no sense of what I was doing when driving in Spain on the tarmac, because for most of it I had no real feedback as to what the car was doing, and it just felt like it was sliding all over the place on a surface that it should be gripping far more. Overall, it's not a bad feeling once you get used to it, except Spain. I really don't like how that feels. But I think the problem may be with the forced feedback. With Dirt Rally I had a feedback setup from Templar GFX, and that was a real game changer. I think Dirt 4 will need to bring that same sort of setup and mod alive. It really needs to bring that to life. Templar GFX, if you're watching this, you need to get on this, because that mod would bring the feeling to life, which means that in turn you'd really be able to judge the road better, and maybe that's what I was struggling with. I don't know. Right now it just feels too arcadey, probably due to the forced feedback. But apart from the grip levels, there's not much to separate the simulation gameplay from Dirt Rally, and whilst saying that, the arcade gameplay, it's actually, well, just that. It's a very simplified physics system, or at least it feels like a simplified physics system. There seems to be more corrections going on. There seems to be more in the way of you turn in and the steering won't react as sharpish, or it'll give you some sort of correction. There's brake assist, there's this, that and the other. So in the arcade mode it is much more arcade-like, which is, I think it does suit Dirt 4 better, and the simulation mode just seems to be missing a little bit. It just seems to be missing a little bit. Overall though, this is a solid offering from Codemasters, and a huge step up from the previous numerical iterations of the Dirt titles in terms of what it offers. In terms of teams, championships and the likes, it was a step up from Dirt Rally, but physics wise it felt like some things are better and some things are just not as good as the title that I enjoyed so much. It does make it hard for me to actually rate this because there is a lot going on, but a few niggles going against it, it does have to, you know, there's something that you have to pause. You have to pause and just think about it. So, having thought carefully, and I've thought about this for about a few hours, I have to give this 89 out of 100. Now, sounds like a silly number, but hear me out. I gave Dirt Rally an 88 out of 100. I wanted to give this a 90, but the combination of force feedback and physics is just stopping me from giving that. When I get to that 90 mark, you know you're entering greatest game ever, or greatest simulator ever territory. It's just not there yet. It's just that combination of force feedback and physics is just stopping me from giving that. It's just slightly shy, and it is slightly better overall than Dirt Rally, but it's a little bit different, so I've got to give it 89 out of 100. And if you want to purchase this title from Gamesplanet, please do check out the link in the description box below. Purchasing from there will really help me out. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Total Reviews.